Greetings and welcome to Enigmatic, back by popular demand. And by popular demand, I mean one person asked me, when are you going to post another video? So it only takes one. It only takes one. I've talked about this before, but I'm just going to talk about it again. I guess partly because, I'm trying to do this YouTube thing and whatnot and figure out my way through this. But also, this is kind of a vlog, like a personal vlog, and I need to work on being more personal with myself. So that being said, I want to talk a bit about consistency, because your boy can't be consistent to save his damn life. But, that might be indicative and symptomatic of other shit that I'm dealing with. I'm also switching things up and laying on my Shakti mat right now while we all talk. This is something I've been consistent with for the past week. Shakti mat is an acupressure mat, so it's like laying on a bed of nails. But I think I've spoken a bit about how my body hurts, and this is something that helps alleviate some back tension. But anyway, yeah, I think that when it comes to my channel, while I figure out what I want to do, I'm going to use this as an exercise to get over trauma or paradigms that exist within my mind that don't need to be there. So I think I've spoken before about how I've had to write the sentence, I will practice not talking, thousands of times. And I also had to have notes around my house reminding me to practice not talking. And, I'm 36 years old right now, and that shit still haunts me. I assume that there is a whole lot of judgment about anything that I want to say. I also assume that nobody wants to hear what I have to say, which makes doing something like this that much harder, because this is all about what I have to say. And then I always kind of worry about, if I'm saying things right and things like that. There's all these little tiny, they're like mites, and they reproduce themselves of concern and worry with regards to what I want to share and say. And then, there's a part of me that tries to learn from other people, and a lot of people speak out of pocket. They don't think enough before they speak. And that's my opinion, that's my view. And I can only go off of what my perspective is and my phenomenology is of a given topic in a given context. And so, online, for example, everybody wants to say some shit, and I find a lot of errors. I find a lot of interpretive flaws, and I find a lot of, fallacies for a lot of the claims that people want to make, the arguments people want to develop, and the things that people want to share. And a critical assessment, it's gonna exist even with regards to certain types of opinions. So, if somebody says, oh, I like this, there's no criticism to come from that, really, unless we want to look at the reasons for it, right? But then if it's the type of topic where you can feel however you want to feel about it and whatnot, a lot of times we try to use what we consider to be facts in order to substantiate what our opinion is. And that's a point where I find that, people talk a little bit too much and also lack a bit of critical thought. So, I'm the type of person, I kind of attack opinions as well. It's usually depending on how it's shared, like out in the West, we're very individualistic. And so we like to share our opinions as if they're facts. That's when I'm going to say something about an opinion. And so, yeah, all this being said, I think I'm just going to start using this channel as a way to, practice talking. So the complete inverse of what I was conditioned to in childhood. So that being said, I might try to flood my channel with videos, sharing my thoughts in any given moment, just to, one, get it out of my system, two, get in the habit of being more consistent about it, and three, be better about putting myself out there, right? So it's I have a lot to do, but I think that I have a lot of Man, I can't even find the word because because it's something I wouldn't normally apply to myself, especially at this age. But I think I have a lot of potential. I say that now because things seem to be kind of blossoming for me in certain ways, and I'm very thankful and grateful, and um, trying to, breathe a little bit with this relief that's come by opportunities that have come up. So, for example, I decided to become a yoga instructor. I cut my teeth on Vedic and yogic philosophy in high school. So, the philosophy I'm already familiar with. And then I technically, in a certain sense, do yoga every day. I get in touch with myself, my body, my being, my mind, and get them all to a point of homeostasis through breath and movement and flow, right? So even if I am not using Vedic principles, the overarching and underpinning ideas that make yoga what it is are still extant in my personal practice, right? Now I'm a citizen of the world. I'm not somebody that, I need to relegate myself to one practice of some sort, one paradigm. Like I'm a paradigm hopper. I juggle metaphysical presuppositions. That's esoteric. That was just a sentence I've been wanting to say for a while. I'm still considering going back and getting my master's in counseling because I need a more stable and solidified future and profession. And even though I'm a psychedelic guide and I'm only getting more and more clients and things are starting to flourish there, I just need something to fall back on a bit more in my life. So that's, the yoga thing's a big deal. And I'll probably be spending a lot of my day to day taking those classes as well as doing yoga. Because my body hurts. That's why we're laying on the Shakti mat. I'm still in my classes for recertifying in personal training. So, working on being a nutrition coach, a fitness coach, and a trainer. And, that's something that's going to be on the side for what's going on for me at the center. Things, like I said, things picking up at the center. I'm going to be the psychedelic medicine handler, or one of them. And then I'm getting more clients, and I was requested to grow mushrooms as well. So it's like, I'm not the type of person that really enjoys labels, but I'm trying to collect them in a certain sense right now. So one thing that, I definitely identify with is I'm a philosopher, right? Now I'm a yoga instructor. No, I notice how I said yoga instructor and I didn't say I'm a yogi. Like, I think there's a distinction. One is very culturally specific, and I'm not going to try to appropriate that just to fit a role and fit a part, right? I'm going to be a mushroom cultivator. I'm a psychedelic guide. I'm a fitness motivator or fitness coach, and I guess you could say motivator. These are all like good labels, things that help me feel good about myself, things that help me align with myself. But there's also things that appeal to a life of service, right? And those are all things that are important to me, and finding that balance. And so, that being said, like, it feels good to acknowledge in this moment right now that I am slowly but surely finding balance. And this has shown up in ways in my medicine work and my personal practice as well, because I've talked about my inhibitions as well as my trepidation. Even though I've been doing this for so long and I do it pretty regularly, I still come up across the same barriers. And while the barriers don't prevent me from doing work, they prevent me from doing work as deeply as I would like to. So that being said, I don't know exactly what has happened, and I wrote this on a forum that I'm a part of, but something clicked recently and I just don't give a fuck. And the last few times that I've decided to journey with a particular medicine, I have, taken that medicine in and without as much anxiety and inner hindrances. And that feels good. That's that space to grow, that space to move. That's something that we need to really give ourselves, is that space to grow and to move. It's hard to give ourselves that space when society kind of makes it seem like we're supposed to know everything already. So you come across someone then, or let me rephrase this. there's something you don't know. You come across somebody that brings up that you don't know it, and they make it seem like you're inept or something like that for not knowing it, themselves not being aware of the plethora of information and things available to come across. So, for example, it's the limited statement, or it's like the limited statement of, unless you've been living under a rock. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Just because it's common for a lot of people doesn't mean that it's going to be common for everyone. Like, that's a logical fallacy. This is why in logic, words like all, some, none, they're actually very important words. Because, for example, when I say all of something, that means there's no exception. So, like, all people, in the red pill sphere, they want to talk about all women, right? It's like there's just logical fallacies all over the place. And it's funny because I feel like an asshole for noticing it and then wanting to point it out. But, I mean, granted, this ain't Reddit, so this isn't the am I the asshole, but I'm not the asshole. Like, even if people get upset or, want to, try to pop back because I had, an observation to make, that's not on me. It just kind of makes me think about how anti-intellectualism is a ever increasing thing right now. I feel like I've had people get smart at me for intellectual shit, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, this is who I am, and I'm a human being too. So, but yeah, like right now in this moment, it feels good to just be talking to you guys and to just be sharing. So, and maybe this is something I need to do in the mornings because I definitely feel a lot more engaged with my day. After, sharing what I've shared so far, and I feel like I haven't even shared really that much. But, we're here right now and we're practicing talking, and this might be something that I bring up for myself, right? And with all things in my mind, there's a balance. So, while I think that people talk too much, and I, kind of put it on myself that I must be talking too much. And I don't think that everybody talks too much. I just think there's a lot of instances in which, like, shut the fuck up for a second, just think about what you want to say, and then maybe it'll come out a little bit better or more accurately or more in line with what you're trying to say. But there's a balance, right? And so there's a part of me in my mind that kind of appeals to Kant's categorical imperative. Like, if you can't will it to be an absolute for everyone, then you probably shouldn't do it too, right? So, one of the modern day examples that we like to give is if you work in an office and you still steal a ream of paper, like, you probably shouldn't do that, because if everybody stole that ream of paper, then there would be no paper to print things in the office, right? If you steal and then you will it for everybody to steal, then that doesn't really create, a very homeostatic environment for people to live if we're always stealing from each other. Okay. Now, that's all well and good. And I think it's a valiant effort on my part, and it's a valiant effort on Kant's part, but we're not all the same. And that's where that philosophy kind of falls apart. And that philosophy, that idea, kind of lives in my subconscious in a lot of ways. And so I forget this observation that I'm making right now. And we're not all the same. So while, in my view and from what I notice, I find a lot of people may need to shut the fuck up, a little bit. That doesn't mean that I necessarily need to, because my experience hasn't been what other people's experience has been, right? So I can't be like hard on myself about it just because my opinion is what it is. Where my opinion is going is not the same as where it's coming from. And like, it could go in different directions and not mean the same thing about like different groups of people or different individuals, right? I feel like I'm not saying that quite the way that I want to, but it's what it is. It's part of the practice. So yeah, so you know who you are. Thank you for making a comment and reaching out and saying, when's the next video coming out? Because I think that maybe what I'm doing right now is what needs to be done on this channel. My other thing about it too is I'm not trying to increase the magnitude of issues that I find in the world, right? So there's a lot from companies and organizations like social media companies that are inherently manipulative in order to keep you on the platform. And then creators have to appeal to that standard as well in order to create more traffic and hopefully get more revenue, because everybody wants to make their bag, right? That's what the kids are saying. But I find that there are a lot of issues that they're very nuanced and they're very subtle, but I think that they can have tremendous impacts down the road. So, for example, my channel is not flashy in any way. I'm not trying to keep your attention, right? I'm not trying to manipulate your mind in order to be here. If you're here, that means that you want to be here and you want to be listening to this channel. It's kind of like how teachers nowadays, they're trying to teach, but they also have to have Subway Surfer playing because kids' ADHD is so bad. We need to have something that is providing us a degree of like mental satiation while we're trying to learn something else. We can't handle things that are boring anymore. So I guess in a certain sense, to help society remedy ADHD and to not give in to things that I find to be problematic is why I do my channel this way. Now, that's not to say that I'm going to do it this way forever, because I've been having dreams that, I don't know, it's like they're talking about the future, right? And one thing that I've had several dreams about is doing like reaction videos. So like streaming on Twitch, a YouTube video or some shit, that I want to react to, and then posting that to YouTube. So, and what's nice about that is that I'm very busy. I'm all over the place, and I might have ADHD. So the ability to kind of record that and then to just be able to post it is nice to me as well. I think that we also need to like move away from wanting, super high quality content all the time, because we're appealing to the flashy optics, which are the most vapid part of a lot of the content that we want to consume, right? So, here what with like me talking, it's about the dialogue, it's about the content in which I want to share through speech. But we need something flashy to be going on, or something. We need the video to be edited in this high quality way in order for us to appreciate it. And it's just as shallow as, the ways in which we look at each other in the world on a physical and a surface level. So, a great example of that is pretty privilege. I'm not trying to appeal to any of this shit, because it's only making things worse in my mind for us as humans, right? And while I'm one person out of 8 billion people, like, I can only do my best to align with what comes through my mind in the entire gestalt of all of this. So, yeah. Now we're going to slowly get up off of this Shakti mat. Kind of stings when you just, like, get up off of it real quick. A lot of sensitization there. Well, thank you. This has been good. I feel pretty good. I hope that you all are too. I hope that in a lot of ways, and this is what I hope with every video, because I'm just talking about myself and I'm not used to just talking about myself, and I want something to be obtained and gained by people that listen to this channel. I hope that, something sparked within you, and that something has been invigorated by something that I've said. So please give me a like, give me a subscribe. I hope that you enjoyed it. Be good to you, be good to others, and I'll see you next time. Peace.